philanthropy. So I'm the founder of an organization called Heroes of Hope. And I suppose our purpose is that we are a community initiative whereby we arrange a variety of sport and I suppose exercises and healthy living for people of determination. So we work with athletes as young as the age of 6 right through to adult athletes. And thereafter we provide, like, I suppose, a very diverse training program where we adapt it according to the needs of the athletes that attend. And then we also try and put together a variety of events and attend as many events as possible to create more awareness around athletes and I suppose the healthy lifestyle which they need, to grow and to flourish and to have many opportunities for their lifetime. So that's essentially who I am and what we do.
Super. My name is Stenger. I'm an orthotist, so I work with assistive and special adapted devices, whether it's custom made or just sourced. I have my own company in Dubai. It's called Orthomina. And then I facilitate clinical care at several clinics independently for those providers. And it's a pleasure being here today. Now, where I see my role in this sector is that when you're buying shoes, you have several types of shoes. You might not be using your same shoes for your activity. And though we would like a device that can be versatile and can be used for everyday life, at times certain sport and activity either needs no device or needs an adapted device just to be specifically suited for the needs of that activity.
So essentially, I think we're here to kind of talk about, I suppose, how we can support children, with additional needs, and possibly, I suppose, how sports or healthy living is probably essential to their development and overall, I suppose, personal development, both physically and cognitively. So that's kind of, I suppose, what Here's a Hope is kind of in the community at the moment. Is we're a very big believer that any athlete or any child with any ability should be involved in sports or sport-like activities for lots of different reasons. Obviously, to maintain an active, healthy living, to make new friends, to be able to reach out to coaches and use them as a role model to achieve more, for themselves. So for our side of things, we're a big promoter about getting children actively involved. And yes, it's great that children do get, physiotherapists and physical therapists, which is wonderful. It does support their individual needs. And then I suppose my role as a coach and, in the organization is we want to offer them, I suppose, a very normal environment where, like any child, after school, they get to go play football or they get to go play basketball with their friends. And we're trying to stimulate that environment, an environment where we adapt it and allow them to come in, get involved and develop, their own skill set at their own level, and equally to find out their own strengths and to build their confidence so that they continue longevity in sport right through until obviously they become adults. So that's the big thing of what we're all about and what we advocate for children and adults of determination.
Yeah, the thing is, if you step back and you be a little bit pragmatic about it, imagine you have an adult patient with some form of knee pain or knee injury, and he has to go to rehab. The first thing that physiotherapist will see is what is that person's muscle memory and history of activity. When you have somebody that's been active and has been mobile and been really on the go as a child, they've got a whole different structure or approach to how they can be treated. And exactly the same with children with challenges. The thing is, it's one thing to maximize their mobility, but to get them active, firstly, from a psychological point of view, it's incredibly important. They can interact with their peers, they get the role modeling. Having a role model of active people is of course a lot better than getting a role model of people not that active. We have all the benefits from the psychological aspect, but the kids are developing, so their muscles, their bones, the density, the length, the strengths are all developing, and it's use it or lose it. So early on, they have this ability to harness this development. We have neuroplasticity at play. And activity is a very good way to achieve that, specifically if it's done in a fun environment. children with disabilities and challenges always have this problem with growth. You know, it's never the tendons or the lengthens or the muscles that become shorter. The bones are growing, the epiphyseal plates are growing, but because the children aren't running and active, they aren't getting the full motion at the joints. So the tendons are becoming shorter than the actual bone growth. Now, to stretch that in physiotherapy is painful. It's uncomfortable, and it gives you a lower quality muscle and tendon. If it's done in playing, it's the same as a growing child. They go through growth spurts, they run, they have a bit of pain, but they're doing the stretching in a fun environment, and they don't even realize that they're doing this. And the same with children with special needs. If it's done in this environment. And lastly, it gives them a machine of energy. You know, the more active they are, they sweat and they're tired and they're out of breath. That means their hearts are working. And the heart is the most important muscle in that child's body. You know, if they have lower resting heart rates, they got a bigger heart volume, they have bigger cardiovascular pulmonary function, which means their chest, their breathing, all of that is improved. And that just gives them more stamina so that the physiotherapist can give them more strenuous exercises, longer exercises, and they can get better bang for their buck. And that's the role of activity.
Yeah, I think from my experience of this over the last couple of years or so, is sometimes the parents can be quite hesitant because of this. They're worried that, you know, they might fall over or they could get hurt from being involved within sports. But in fact, it's the opposite. Like, allowing them to be involved in a sporting or a sport-like environment, it is actually enhancing their skill set. It's obviously going to improve the muscle strength. It's going to, again, give them the confidence. It's going to get them moving. It's going to get them active. It's going to increase the energy. And I think that's really, really important that, like, you know, parents are encouraging of the kids getting involved, because if we very much so focus too much sometimes on the physical therapy and the physio for some of our athletes, or some of the athletes that I've worked with, they sometimes get bored of it and they no longer really want to go to it. And it's like, okay, now we have to do this again. But by getting them involved in a sport environment and being around other children, suddenly they get a new like piece of life. They get this new kind of enthusiasm and motivation to want to move and to want to get active, and suddenly now they do want to get stronger because they want to be able to do more. So I think that's like kind of a really important thing just to kind of bear in mind. By getting them involved in these type of environments, it can be a bit of a switch for a lot of kids, and no longer are they very focused on what they cannot do. They suddenly start to realize what they can do, and then you see a shift in their confidence. You see this shift in their mobility. You know, they, like I said before, they want to be able to do more, and you know, they set themselves these little goals, you know, to be able to achieve that. So I think by getting them involved and getting them you know, active in this in any level really, you're going to see a big improvement. And I think sometimes with CP athletes in particular, you know, they can get very tired after a long school day, and if you feed into that at a young age, you're actually going to, you know, hinder the development, because suddenly from a young age, they start to think it's okay just to sit down and maybe not do much, you know. But in fact, you know, that's not going to really help them when they become adults. And in fact, their disability becomes now even, you know, more problematic. But by actually encouraging them, getting them down to a club or getting them active and getting them to see what they actually can do is actually going to enhance them, in particular as they start to grow and get older. And in fact, it might actually give them the ability to live all by themselves and be able to move and, you know, have that confidence to be able to move downstairs, or, you know, have a, you know, a house in the future and so forth. So again, I think it's just important, don't feed in too much. You know, let's try and encourage them to stay active, even once, twice a week, something additional to the physio and the physical therapy, because it is only going to help them and improve them and hopefully give them that longevity, you know, to have a very nice life despite having a disability.
Yeah. And again, having better cardiovascular function helps. If by God forbid there's something like a chest infection, a bronchitis, it just gives a better all-over immune system. Now, the exercises don't have to be done in a formal training environment. Obviously, it can be facilitated in a supervised way, but it's something that parents can tap into and make it part of everyday parent-child interaction, where the parents can make an outdoor activity, whether it's on the beach or going for a walk, that facilitates this type of activity. Now, I'll just shortly touch base on orthotic use, and just to show the difference. You know, so this is a general AFO, it's a pediatric AFO, a nice little pediatric AFO, and you'll see it has this joint. So this joint needs to mimic function. And it's all good and well. And we have these devices, we can make them in thermoplastic or we can make them in carbon fiber. And these do work well. But now imagine a prosthetic foot. So if we look at this prosthesis here, this is a patient that actually lost their leg under the knee. Now, if you look at this device, it's got a carbon frame, which is like a spring. And this is what the athletes use. So the moment the patient lands on this, the body weight is turned into inertia. It gets into the ground reaction force. And that means that energy buildup can build up in the carbon spring and give us energy return. So what that allows us to do is to give function. That's why these athletes with the prosthesis run so fast. Now, this patient, for example, could have this device for everyday use. But for activity, they could have a device like this, a carbon fiber device, which in a very similar way builds up this resistance that gives them a better and more dynamic system. It's lighter. Now, we might not be facilitating all those exact requirements that the physiotherapist would want from this device, but at the same time, it gives them the ability to maybe walk faster or even run, or to spend more time and to do stuff longer. So there's always ways to look at it. Even if it's maybe a water sport or some other form of floor activity, the device could be removed altogether. And again, just respecting range of motion, respecting joint function, just to make sure there's no dysfunction and no damage of the joints. Always a program can be developed. So you can just speak to your therapist, your trainer, or to the orthotist to see what adaptive technology is available for that specific sport.
And even on that note, like sometimes we have some families who may have like a physio plan or a therapeutic plan of action where, you know, there might be areas that they want their child to work on. And then for us as trainers, we can look at that and we can obviously, you know, build that into the programming with us. But then obviously, again, it's going to give that kid a really fun environment at a gym or maybe with their friends, but they're actually still working towards the goals and objectives that they need to meet in order to obviously to develop the muscle growth or whatever it is that they're working on. So again, this is kind of where we feel like getting involved in a sporting group or getting involved with other coaches is actually very, very important. It's probably more important in particular for children who may have a physical development or a cognitive challenge, because they will probably need this more than sometimes the mainstream. You know, it's very, very important that they do challenge their bodies, that their body continues to grow, is constantly moving. And again, it's only going to help them as they move forward in life. So yeah, don't be kind of fearful of getting involved with sports or getting involved in sport-like activities. I would say get out there, get active. It's one of the most positive things that you can give anyone. It's like another gift of life. If you ask me, sport can bring out the best in you. It can help you challenge yourself in lots of different ways. And equally as well, even for parents, it's really great for parents who may have similar challenges or similar experiences when they come together and they're on the sidelines watching their kids perform. Is also a really wonderful way to bring families together and start to support each other, you know, on their own journeys. So as a community, I just think it's important that you do find a place where you feel like your kid is going to have a safe space to come to and just to grow together. So yeah, I think just be positive around this area, and just because perhaps you feel right now they might not be able to do it, trust me, they can. You just need to find the right space for them and give them that platform, allow them to work through for themselves, and they're only going to get stronger every day, and every step of the way you will start to see that happen for them.
Okay, so what would you say is a good starting point for parents now that have a disabled child? They've never done sport. What would they do? Would they start getting a mat at home, getting some TheraBand?
I think first, I always say as well when people approach me, even to train their kids, like, have you had that conversation with the physical therapist and the therapist? You know, what is the next step? Which road are they on, and what is it that you want to achieve? But I think it's very important as well just to make sure that you do have those conversations. And then I would say there afterwards, it is, I do feel like the UAE, in particular Dubai, is getting a lot more inclusive and becoming a lot more open-minded about having adaptive athletes in gyms or getting them involved in sports clubs. So again, if you kind of have a bit of a Google search, I know it's really cliche, but there's actually a lot of people out there now who are starting to really invest in this area. So again, look for the ones that have a good review, look for the trainer who you're going to feel like might actually develop and grow your kid. and thereafter then just make that connection, reach out, and then away you go. Because there's a lot of groups out there at the moment who are trying to, you know, put some really cool stuff together, and then you start from the process from there. And a big thing as well, as I would say, is trust. Like, I know it's terrible, but like, you really have to trust trainers, and you know, and their relationship with your child, and also trust your kid. You know, give them that chance to become very independent, and let them get involved, like, you know, with the trainer, with that group, and trust that they can do it, and encourage that, and give them all that support, and you'll see a big change in them.
And any advice for things they can do at home? Start off, maybe those that don't have the resources to.
Yeah, I think regards to at home, like, it could be simple thing. I know it sounds ridiculous, but there's also like some simple like online workouts you can do, or there's like challenges. Like, I even give some of my athletes at home. I will tell them, like, go on the couch, get your legs up, and put your hands down. You can start doing like little push-ups, or holding yourself in a supine position, or sit-ups at home, push-ups at home. Give yourself even a stair challenge, or it's little things, or lifting things up and putting things down. It could be carrying water bottles, or doing bicep curls with a water bottle. And I think as well, as a family, stay active. Like, think about one activity you could do even, you know, once a week. I think the expo at the moment, they've got lots of fitness activities going on. You can go and do runs. There's loads of community groups now out there doing free family runs. Get down there with your kid, even if they are in a frame or whatever. Just do it with them. You know, don't hide away from these type of experiences, because in fact, many of these events organizers now, they're really open to having people with additional needs attend. So, and a lot of free stuff that's out there. I think if you go into Hope Sports, that's a really good website as well. You can type it in. They often have events coming up, and from there you can just contact the individual event organizers if you do have concerns. But as a whole, like, I've never been to any event with any of my athletes where we haven't been welcomed. Everybody's very welcoming, very supportive, and you know, they're happy to have us there, and they will support us in any way that we need. So that's one thing I would definitely say. There's a lot going on out there. Don't be afraid to explore the community, or the sports psych community. Alternatively, you can always contact Heroes of Hope as well, which is my organization. You know, I can recommend some really good people to get in touch with in terms of events, or stuff you might want to do with the family, or any groups that I feel might be suitable for your kid, because there's a good few people out there that want to help, and they do want to get involved. So yeah, just don't be afraid to reach out, start asking questions, and you know, we can connect you and get you involved with the right people out there.
So we have a question here: is children with mental challenges that have difficulty following instructions, how do you negotiate that? What's your take on that?
I think we have a lot of kids with cognitive disabilities who do attend the programs, and I think for me, over the years, I'm working with a lot of kids in particular who do have this, focusing on progress, because the structure of sport is actually really good for them in terms of focus. So even following simple directions like go, stop, jump, you know, for them it's perfect, because it's simple instruction. It's a great way for them to focus, particularly if they're children who are perhaps nonverbal, because sometimes they get very frustrated, they can feel very stressed, or just very like out of sorts sometimes. But they come in, they do their sports, they get all that frustration out, because maybe they've run a couple of laps around the running track, or they've slammed some balls in the gym, they've come to boxing and they've done their boxing or whatnot, and then suddenly they go home, they feel so much better and so much refreshed. And equally, the kids with cognitive disability, I think, again, it helps with the focus, it helps with their coordination, you know, it helps with their social skills. So I would say, in fact, more so as well, again, for cognitive challenges, sport in particular, it's just a great way to get them thinking in another way, and to really focus, and to help with them, you know, challenge their energy in lots of different ways.
Yeah, I think the take-home message should be, don't think it's not going to work. Give it a go. Of course, professionals are going to look at the environment that's going to make sure it's safe. And the same with the second question is on cerebral palsy. Is it possible for CP kids to enter sport? Now, I know this is absolutely possible, but you can give us some of your reference with regards to CP children. I'm sure you're very active in that.
Yeah, I think it's still, I think for me, especially in this area, I think we had this conversation prior, it's still a very new space in this country right now, CP athletes, or athletes in particular who may have a physical disability. But I would 100%, I'm a big advocate for CP athletes to get involved and to get active. And again, don't shy away from it. We are looking at trying to develop more sporting activities in particular for CP athletes. But like this weekend alone, I've got 3 CP athletes competing in an event in Abu Dhabi. You know, it's a fitness event. We've adapted all the challenges for them. But because those athletes in particular, they've shown so much progress over the space of like a year, we are now putting them into more events, pretty much mainstream events that's adapted for their needs. Because again, it builds their confidence. It helps them, see exactly what their body can do, the areas that perhaps they need to focus on more. So again, with CP, I think more than ever, you should be getting them involved and getting them, active in whatever area of sport that you can do. There's a lot of gym workouts out there that you can do. There's football groups that you can come to. There's boxing groups that you can come to. So, it is out there. You just need to find it. And I would always say as well, commit to it. Like, it's like with everything, like any sport, if you don't show the commitment, you're not going to have the progress. So maybe coming down to one session and then disappearing, it's not going to work. You kind of have to be committed to this, and at least go for at least a 6-week stint to really start to see that progress start to happen. It can't just be, okay, let's try it. Okay, it didn't work, now let's go home and forget about it. It has to be a case where there is that commitment, and you make that training session every week the same way you go to your physio, the same way you go to your physical therapy. You need to make sure that you're committed to that and you build that into the lifestyle. So that for me is probably a very important thing as well, if you really want to get the best out of the sessions and out of your kid.
Yeah, and there's another question here about how can you accommodate motor skills, whether it's fine motor skills. And I think people need to disassociate with what they think is perfect, what is sport and what is not sport. At the end of the day, whatever gets the kid involved, gets them motivated and gets them active, the sport can be adapted around their potential, right? So you don't have to worry that there's going to be finger pointing or judgment. It's just the opposite. It's the whole aspect about inclusion. Not only is the patient, your child, benefiting, everybody around in that environment is benefiting from it psychologically, through the whole inclusion aspect. And again, working with someone like Ollie that's professional at it, as a team, has the setup, can help that be done comfortably and in a safe environment.
Yeah, 100%. Like, I think that's one thing I was advocating against. Again, is just the environment is safe. Like, don't get too caught up in what other kids are able to do, because that's not going to be beneficial. Focus more on what your child has maybe achieved in that one session. No matter how big or small, it's progress, it's an achievement, and celebrate it. And like I said, it's a step-by-step process. But the best step you can take is actually getting them involved and getting them active, because only there will you start to see the results and see a change, in your child and their ability to access sport. And just in general, it's going to make them a lot happier, because it does produce happy hormones. So they will be a lot happier, moving around and meeting their friends and getting involved in events. And it's, it's a game changer. It's a whole new lifestyle for them.
Yeah. So a good way to start is obviously maintaining an active lifestyle at home, which we all should do anyways, and make sure the child's included in that. That's, of course, the first stepping stone. You can't expect somebody to go live outside and participate in something that you can't respect inside the house. Of course, everyone has challenges, and expose your child to videos, to footage, to YouTube. There's a lot of footage about adaptive sports events, as well as certain game sets that are focused on the children with challenges, and let them see the difference and get motivated and ask, would you like to participate in that? Is that something you would be interested in? And that's a good way. And then I think there has to be a little bit of tough love too. Nobody wants to step outside their comfort zone. Even I should be at gym more often than I really am. And you got to step outside your comfort zone, that you can get that action starting and then start making it habitual. And once it's habitual, then the true benefits are going to be long-term, and it's going to be easy and second nature to do.
Yeah, I would say so. Even like recently, like the Paralympics was only there in September. So there's a lot of like new footage about some of the para athletes and what they did at those games. So that's even a good start. And often I've actually said that to some of my CP athletes. I've actually given them links and shown them other athletes, and I'm like, if you train hard, you could actually get to the Olympics one day, and that's not the ultimate goal for everybody, but it's definitely something that, it's a good, positive role model kind of impact that you can, get your kid to look at, and they can probably relate to it. Like, wow, okay, cool. I want to do that one day. And it's nice for them to have that motivation and to have that goal. And there's no reason why they cannot, So again, I think definitely do a little bit of your own research, have a little look out there, see what's out there, see how we can get started, and before you know, they could be on a really positive pathway. Because sport is not even just about performance. Sport is also about like other areas. It could be becoming a trainer one day. It could be maybe getting a job in a gym because they have that interest and that passion, for health, fitness activities, and the people that it attracts. So it might even just be about actually being an athlete. Sometimes actually about just being part of the community and finding their pathway through that. They could become a coach. There's so many pathways within sports. So yeah, I think it's important again just to support the interest and encourage them, and no matter what they achieve, no matter how big or small, celebrate it, and keep them engaged as best you can.
Yeah. So again, one day that your child might have to be faced with a set of stairs to climb. There's no other way. So either they've never had that level of challenge, or because of the sporting activity they've been participating in on a weekly basis, they have the foundation, they have the framework. They've been set small challenges outside that of physical therapy and other challenges that have been activity based, that they know, I can do this, I'm ready, I've got the muscle control, I've got the strength, and I've got the stamina. I don't know if there's any questions from the extended audience. Please feel free to drop it. And of course, we're both available in the future. If there's any, our contact details will be available on this webcast. Yeah, I think we touched base on everything. Thank you very much,
guys. Thank you so much for coming.
That was great.
Awesome. Okay, over and out. Get out to active. That's the most important message. Get active now. Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you all so much.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.